Is this you? Someone who's ready for your next? Lately, it seems like everyone who I've talked to is in this exact same spot. Whether it's clients, colleagues, friends, or family, everyone seems to be in or ready for some sort of transition. These are sometimes transitions that they're initiating, and other times, unfortunately, they're transitions that are forced on them. But either way, for many, there's a desire to pivot, a desire to move into new things and new spaces, a desire to grow. And for many of the folks I've talked to, they don't just want to do this in the same old way. They want it to look and feel different this time. They're tired of job experiences that ask them to overwork at the same time that they're being underutilized. They're tired of being asked to give everything except what they're best, stand out, and exceptional at. They're done with that and ready for something new. When I hear this, I often ask them the question that changed it all for me. I ask them, okay, you want things to be different. Answer me this. What would it feel like to get paid to be you instead of being paid to be someone else? What would that look like? How would you feel if you were paid for the unique things and experiences that only you bring? And every time I ask this question, I watch their eyes light up as if they can actually see it. They can see themselves showing up in their full flair and possibility. They can see it flash right before their eyes. And they can feel it. And it feels real good. So is this you? Are you ready for your next, your transition and pivot to something new that you're hoping will be different this time? Are you hoping you can finally get paid to be you? If you are, then today's episode is just for you. Today, I want to dive into this and bring you to the most important first step that you need to take to get to this place of being paid to be you. Because the time you've spent getting paid to be someone else is up. Hey, Creating Maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create. Remember Celie? In episode 73, This is Why Ownership is Non-Negotiable, I talked about Celie, a character from The Color Purple whose life challenges were plentiful, but she eventually got a new life after she created with her gift of sewing and got paid for the signature pants she created out of her boutique, Miss Celie's Pants. I bring her up because she's a great example of the power of not only creating, but owning what you create. In the end, she was doing what I encourage you to do every time you tune in, which is to get paid for what you create with your gifts. But how did she get from not owning what she created to owning what she created and then getting paid to be herself? Because she wasn't doing that at first. And how can you do the same? We'll get to that, but I want to check in on what I started out this episode with. I want to really know what you think, and I want you to really dig deeper into this for yourself. I want you to chew on it. Do you want this? Do you want to be paid to be you? Because I talk about this all the time, but do you really want this? It's an important question for you to ask before we can really make progress and really make this happen. Do you really want to be paid to be the master of what and who you are and not just a jack of all trades? To no longer be in job roles that have you feeling that, having you have that overworked, underutilized feeling because you're not working in your zone of genius. To no longer feel misaligned because all your gifts are used in ways that feel off or constrictive to you. But instead to finally create with your gifts and to be known and paid for that great value that you bring. To make that unique contribution and have that positive impact. Wouldn't it be amazing? I think it would. But for too many, this is not the reality. Yeah, sure, there are a few people who've cracked the code, but for the vast majority of people, I think it's a life of just revving your engines and feeling like you're not quite getting where you want to go. And what you may not realize, what they may not realize, is that it's because one important thing always gets in the way. And getting this thing right is the first important step that you need to get a handle on if you're going to get paid to be you. And it hinges on this. You can only go as far as who you are. I'll say it again because I've said it before. You can only go as far as who you are. Everything about what you do, everything about where you can go, everything about what you create comes from or is limited by who you are and how you see yourself right now. So to go beyond where you are now, to evolve or transition into something new, that new thing that you're thinking about, you keep talking about, whether it's a new job, a new mission, a new life experience, whatever, to be able to get paid to be you, right? Even that, to transition to all the things that you want, you need to be a different person. You need to become that person who gets paid to be them. This means you need a narrative identity shift. A shift that consists of first identifying the current stories that define your narrative identity, then deconstructing those stories so that you can rearrange the parts and finally recreate something new from the old. Celie did this in The Color Purple. She had her gift of sewing with her all along, right? She had it right from the beginning, but until she got a narrative shift on her identity and what she could do and be, that gift just lay dormant and was of no use to her. But once she saw herself differently, once she was able to tell a different story about herself and what she created, everything changed. Now, note, she didn't start from scratch, and you don't have to either. It's not starting from scratch. It's not throwing away everything about who you are and what you've done. Instead, it's creating something new from what already is. It's getting a reframe. It's getting restoried. Yes, restoried. Getting restoried is a reframe on your stories, like the stories you tell yourself about who you are. In episode 32, I talked about some of these key stories, which are your value stories, your anchor or your limiting stories, and your aspirational stories. But beyond this, it's not just reframing the stories about who you are, it's also reframing the stories about what you create. Those stories that you can share with future employers or future partners about the value that you add, about your unique contribution, about your superpowers, about who and how you serve, all the things that are your personal brand. Getting restoried is knowing how to tell your stories in a way that helps you attract the type of work you want, in a way that helps you get paid to be you. Stories about who you are and the high value of what you create wherever and whenever you show up. This is Getting Restoried. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to get restoried? Are you ready to do the work to make this happen? Because if you want to be paid to be you, you've got to get restoried first. If you want to make a unique contribution and create with your gifts, you've got to get restoried first. If you want to transition into your next phase where you will do and attract the work that you want, you've got to get restoried first. And getting restoried will leave you feeling clear and powerful in the face of your next. Whether that decision to have a next is one that you've made on your own or one that's been made for you. And I love this. I love helping clients to get restoried. I love helping them rediscover the treasure of their gifts and how they have so much to offer. I've watched enough people, and not just TV characters like Celie, but I've watched enough people go on to do and create amazing things after they've gotten a reframe, after they've gotten restoried to know who they are and what they create and contribute. And so I know that this is a catalyst, and this has been a catalyst for so many people to help them transition into their next. Like Margaret Kamara in episode 3, who got restoried after seeing herself and what she creates in a new way. This let her dive deeply into her creating power and build her catering business after she came to see the value of her love of cooking for what it really was. It wasn't just some throwaway hobby the way she'd seen it at first. She came to see it as valuable and powerful enough for her to really build something with. She had to see it and herself differently before she could commit and dive into it and get the results of a thriving business that she has today. Or Katie McDonald in episode 91, who now knows that what she creates, the thing that makes her different in her work is her intangible gift of creating connections, right? And now that she knows this, she's pressing into it, not just in her job, but in her whole life. And it's powerful. Clarity is power, y'all. Clarity is power. These are two people at different stages of their journey, but still well on the way to getting paid to be themselves because they have worked on and are living into the reframe of their stories of who they are and what they create. I've also seen what can happen when you don't get a handle on this. Like in a recent coaching conversation that I had with Frank, and Frank is not his real name, but I had a recent conversation with him, and he's been experiencing so much frustration and misalignment on his job because his story of how he sees himself and how he sees what he creates and what other people see of him is creating a brand for him that keeps getting him more of exactly the type of work that he does not want. And maybe you can relate, right? But things are not going to change for him if he doesn't get restoried. And the same goes for you. So it's time to stop spinning your wheels. It's time to do the work. This is your first and most important step to getting paid to be you. Get your narrative identity shift. Get restoried. So here's how you can kickstart this process for yourself. So grab a pen and paper and be ready to answer these 3 questions. 1, I want you to write a list of words that you're currently using to describe yourself and what sets you apart. So think about your jobs, current, past, and how you or others would describe how you've shown up at your best in them, your strengths. With these words, I want you to build your understanding of what your current frame is, your current understanding. What's the current narrative that you have about you and your work and how you show up? And then 2, imagine it's 5 years from now and you're getting paid to be you. Think about that. See yourself there. And then ask, what am I creating and getting paid for that makes this a reality? Don't worry about how you'll get there. Just imagine yourself there and write down what you're creating when you're getting paid to be you. And then 3, ask, who do I need to become in order to achieve question 2? What are things I need to start doing? What are things I need to stop doing? Just start playing around with that. And this is just to get your feet wet, right? It's just to get your feet wet on getting restoried, these 3 questions. But if you're ready to wade fully into this pool, right, to really dive in, to really swim to the other side and win, then I'm here for you. If you know you don't just want to muddle through this on your own, it's time to get help to do the work. And you can only go as far as who you are. And I'm here to help you make the narrative identity shift that you need in order to make your transition, this next transition, make it as powerful and smooth as you can to get where you want to go. Because when you see yourself differently, when you see what you create for the full value that it is, that's when you get your power back. That's when everything will change for you. Let's do this. Get restoried. Now, you might want to know more of what this looks like. So when I work with clients to get restoried, we do a few things. 1, we start by identifying key stories, your key stories, including the stories of what you uniquely create. This is so important. This starts with a treasure hunt to unearth the hidden treasure that's usually getting ignored in your resume and your history of past work. And what I do here is I help people to connect the dots, to find patterns, to see things that they haven't seen before, right? And this is so important because a lot of times you're leaving your most valuable, most powerful things about who you are and what you create on the table just because you're just plugging away, you're just working and you're just not paying any attention. You're not seeing it. And sometimes you need an external person to help you see all the value that you really do and that's unique about you that you just sort of gloss over because it's you. And if you want to dive deeper into what this early first part looks like and see how incredibly valuable clients find this section alone, check out episode 87, Find the Lost Treasure Your Resume's Been Hiding with Adeola Adebiyi. So that's what we start out with. Then we go a step further. We go a step further than the stories hidden in your resume and peel back the layers even further to understand your broader and your current narrative and distinguish the stories that are moving you forward and the ones that are holding you back. And it's so important to know what these are and to distinguish them. so that you can reframe the ones that are holding you back and really launch into the ones that are moving you forward and use them to propel you forward. And then I also give you your own customized reframe to help you restory not just your work and what you create, but to reframe yourself. This is a game changer because it's a rebrand of what you've done so that you can attract exactly the type of work you want going forward while ditching the work that you feel a sense of completion around and don't want to carry into your next. And all of this without having to start from scratch and without having to ditch the best work you've done in the past in order to help you rebrand. Getting restoried is an act of rebranding yourself so that you can get paid to be you. And then last, we develop an action plan for how you can leverage this rebrand to attract the work you want. It'll give you the language and ability to tell a compelling story for yourself, which you need in order to let your network, both new and old, know how to refer opportunities to you and how to be your raving fans and recommenders, doing some of the really hard work of reintroducing you to your world. And people come to me about this all the time, right? People say like, I got to be able to tell my story and tell my story better. And I get that. And I'm hearing that and doing more of that with folks because it's not enough for me to give you a reframe, not enough for me to give you that compelling way of rebranding yourself. You've got to be able to tell your story, right? You've got to be able to tell it in a powerful and compelling way. So this helps you and everybody who comes around you to really know your unique contribution and how you're here to serve and how you're here to make a positive impact so that everything else becomes easier and smoother because it's so clear. So this is what it takes to get paid to be you. This first all-important step of getting restoried. This first step of learning how to get a new story about yourself and what you create and gaining the language to tell that new story for yourself. I hope you'll take the step to do the work and get restoried. And you can do this by visiting reframetocreate.com/restoried to book your restoried coaching sessions. I've got the link and the way to do that in the show notes. I can't wait for you to get a new story and learn how to tell it powerfully so that you can be paid to be you. Let's do this. It's time. See you soon, Creating Maven. Until then, remember to always ask yourself, what will I create?